Right now, a quiet coup just happened in Silicon Valley. The tech giant you literally use every single day, OpenAI, was just dethroned as the most valuable AI company on Earth. And they were beaten by a rival you might not even be looking at. But here's the crazy part. This new king is making double the money with only a fraction of the users. Think about that. OpenAI has 900 million users. Anthropic has maybe 5% of that base. Yet they've completely flipped the AI money machine overnight. Because in this new gold rush, having millions of free users is just vanity. The real sanity is an enterprise utility. Just to put this into perspective, on May 28, 2026, a massive $65 billion funding round launched Anthropic to a staggering $965 billion valuation. That officially pushes them right past OpenAI to become the most valuable dedicated AI company on the planet. So how exactly do they build this enterprise cash engine? Well, while OpenAI was obsessed with getting hundreds of millions of everyday people to use their app for free, Anthropic took a completely different route. They quietly went after massive, high-value corporate cash and completely ignored the mass consumer market. And the contrast in their financial realities is absolutely staggering. OpenAI is currently projecting a massive $115 billion cumulative loss by 2029, literally just burning cash to support all those free users. They don't even have a path to profitability until the 2030s. Anthropic, on the other hand, went straight for Fortune 100 corporations, pushing their revenue to a $47 billion run rate in less than 6 months. Growth equity analysts are saying they've never seen a trajectory like this in the history of software. I mean, it took Salesforce nearly 20 years to hit $30 billion in annual revenue. Anthropic pulled that off from a standing start in under 3 years. Right now, 8 of the top 10 Fortune 100 companies are active clients. That means the everyday office workflows for millions of regular employees are fundamentally changing, practically overnight. But running enterprise models at this kind of massive scale creates a really vicious cycle. You have to generate billions in cash just to feed the shadow debt machine that pays for all the raw computing power. See, instead of diluting their equity to buy that hardware, Anthropic turned to shadow banking. Private credit giants Apollo Global Management and Blackstone stepped in to structure a record-breaking $36 billion off-balance sheet special purpose vehicle. Basically, this shell company borrows the money, buys custom Google Tensor processing units, and then leases them straight back to Anthropic. It's a clever trick. It converts a terrifying upfront capital expense into a nice, predictable monthly operating lease. But here is the massive systemic risk hiding inside this exact structure. To keep those conservative debt investors happy, Broadcom, who actually co-designs these chips, had to provide a residual value support agreement. This means if Anthropic's revenue growth suddenly slows down, or if new tech makes these chips instantly obsolete, Broadcom is on the hook to absorb the financial shortfall. The whole web is so highly leveraged that one tiny misstep could trigger a catastrophic collapse of rapidly depreciating silicon assets. And that brings us to an incredibly urgent problem, which is basically the Elon Musk compute trap. Because while they're waiting for those massive long-term cloud centers to actually get built, Anthropic had to secure immediate computing capacity just to survive. And that led to a totally shocking arrangement with a direct rival. They actually agreed to pay Elon Musk's SpaceX a jaw-dropping $1.25 billion per month. We're talking about a massive $15 billion annual lease, and that is just to get access to SpaceX's Colossus supercomputing clusters down in Memphis, Tennessee. At first, everyone in the tech industry thought Anthropic had just locked down a massive, long-term infrastructure win. But then, Musk just completely pulled the rug on social media. He explicitly stated that this is only a 180-day lease with a 90-day mutual cancellation notice. He actually said, and I quote, "The short term was our request. If compute gets super tight, I said we might need it back." That completely flips the script. It reveals a highly unstable arrangement. If Musk's xAI suddenly decides they need that compute power for themselves, Anthropic could be forced to rapidly migrate massive enterprise workloads back over to AWS and Google Cloud, practically overnight. It is an immense operational guillotine hanging right over their heads. And while they were battling it out over data center space, Anthropic's technology became so undeniably powerful that it actually sparked an unprecedented legal war. A real Pentagon AI standoff. It turns out Anthropic's model Claude was the only frontier AI approved for classified military networks. But when the Department of Defense demanded that Claude be integrated into active combat command systems, Anthropic absolutely refused. They cited the strict safety red lines built right into their constitutional AI framework. In response, the Trump administration labeled the company a supply chain risk and slammed them with a sweeping federal ban across all agencies. Anthropic immediately sued, and a federal judge actually stepped in to block the ban.
The core of this fight is intense. The Pentagon insists that these models have to be available for all lawful use. They argue the corporate guardrails simply cannot dictate military operations during a crisis. They even suggested that Anthropic could act as a supply chain risk, hypothetically using a kill switch to sabotage operations. On the flip side, Anthropic is demanding strict prohibitions against autonomous lethal force and mass surveillance. Now, Judge Lin did block the ban, specifically calling the administration's actions Orwellian in her ruling. But the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals recently noted that forcing the military to rely on an unwilling vendor during an active conflict presents a very real national security risk. So this legal battle, it is far from over. Yet despite all these massive unresolved legal and operational risks hanging in the balance, this entire financial web is about to be dropped squarely onto the public markets in a $1 trillion window. Right now, there is roughly $8 trillion sitting on the sidelines in conservative money market funds, and Wall Street is gearing up for a historic IPO window. The impending public debuts of Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX's xAI are going to be the ultimate test. It all comes down to this. Will public investors prioritize OpenAI's massive consumer brand and projected cash burn, or will they bet on Anthropic's highly profitable yet deeply leveraged enterprise utility? As these trillion-dollar empires prepare to go public, we are staring down a massive, completely unresolved scenario. When artificial intelligence officially becomes the absolute backbone of our national security, who should actually hold the kill switch? The Silicon Valley CEO who built the technology, or the commander-in-chief tasked with defending the country? I literally read all the comments, so let me know whose hand you want on that switch down below.
An investment in knowledge pays the best interest, so why not invest in this channel? Click like and subscribe for more.